morning. It is Sunday, September 20th. We are 44 days out from Election Day. I'm Ali Velshi, live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The second stop of our special Sunday series, Velshi Across America 2020. Leading up to November 3rd, I will be on the road every weekend, coming to you live from critical battleground states across the country. And this morning, we begin with a brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, which was released literally seconds ago. It shows Joe Biden leading President Trump by 8 points in a head-to-head national matchup. This comes as the race for the Oval Office kicks into high gear. Both candidates out on the campaign trail trying to convey their messages to the masses. In some states, votes have already been cast as early voting is already underway. But our top story this morning, the nation continues to pay tribute to a late American icon. Here you see flags flying at half-staff over the White House in remembrance of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The 87-year-old passed away on Friday from complications related to pancreatic cancer. Reflections of her immense contributions to the country are being shared this weekend across the American landscape. Though not formally announced, the New York Times is indicating that her body is expected to lie in repose at the Supreme Court so that large crowds can properly honor her. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell and other prominent Senate Republicans wasted no time discussing how and when to fill her seat on the Supreme Court. President Trump says he's looking to act swiftly to replace Ginsburg on the high court. He says he intends to nominate a woman in the next week, opening up a ferocious political battle that could transform the nation's highest court and alter the presidential election. Last night, as part of a campaign stop in North Carolina, Trump used the prospect of further stacking the court with conservatives as yet another plate of red meat for his base.
So Article 2 of our Constitution says the president shall nominate justices of the Supreme Court. I hope you hear that back home. No, it says the president is supposed to fill the seat, right? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fill the seat.
Simply unbelievable. A short time ago, we learned that former Vice President Joe Biden will be delivering remarks this afternoon in Philadelphia, 2 p.m. Eastern. Those remarks are expected to be centered around the Supreme Court. Now, joining me is Democratic Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. He serves as the Senate Minority Whip. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Let me ask you, given how quickly Mitch McConnell has moved on this, how quickly Donald Trump says he's going to move on this, and how important the Supreme Court is, particularly to Democratic voters, what can you do to hold off this onslaught, this juggernaut, this attempt to nominate and perhaps place a nominee, Donald Trump's nominee, on the Supreme Court before the election?
Ali, there are a limited number of things that we can do, but what it boils down to is this. Will 4 Republican senators decide that it is too hypocritical to reverse the position they took 4 years ago when they denied to President Obama the authority to fill a Supreme Court vacancy in the last year of his term? The argument Mitch McConnell and each one of them made was, wait a minute, we've got an election coming. Let the American people have the last word as to the selection of the next Supreme Court justice. So if 4 Republicans think it is rank hypocrisy for them now to totally reverse their position, we have a chance to stop the process.
All right, tell me how that looks, though, because there could be 4 Republicans who say, let's wait till after the election. But let's say that happens. The Senate remains in session. There is a new president elected, but not a new Congress until the beginning of the year. What happens then? Do Republicans then go into even higher gear in a lame duck session to nominate a Supreme Court or to place a Supreme Court justice on the court?
Well, it's a good question because there's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not if McConnell has his way, reverses the position that he took 4 years ago, and the president sends a nominee, whether we would start the investigation and hearings even before the election, then have a vote on the nominee between Election Day and, say, the end of November. All speculation at this point, total speculation. But if 4 Republican senators say flat out, we will not vote for the motion to proceed, we want to wait and let the next president make that selection, the only exception would be the reelection of President Trump, then they might consider it. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty here as to where they're going. But the point I want to make, and was made earlier by Senator Hirono, whom I serve with on the Judiciary Committee, we want the American people to understand this just isn't a battle of words between the big shots in Washington. This really comes down to the Supreme Court making decisions that affect every single one of us. More than 6 million Americans have been tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. In the eyes of the insurance industry, all of those Americans, and many more to follow, have a pre-existing condition. Under Obamacare, the insurance companies cannot discriminate against Americans for pre-existing conditions. The Trump administration is in the Supreme Court now trying to abolish that protection. If they have their way, it means some people won't even be able to buy health insurance, let alone afford what's there. That's what it comes down to. When we say to people, the choice of another person on the Supreme Court really means something to you and your family.
I take it you don't take the president at his word last week when he said he's got a better, cheaper plan. He just hasn't told anyone about it. Let me ask you this, Senator. There is talk about the fact that if Joe Biden wins and Democrats take the Senate, that they should expand the Supreme Court. They should add more seats to the Supreme Court. It's not in the Constitution as to how many seats should be on the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has moved in size and composition over time. Critics of that plan say that that could delegitimize the court if it gets politicized in that way. What's your take?
I can tell you this, there's a lot of speculation about rule changes, about the Constitution, and every theory you can imagine. In the conference call we had yesterday with the Senate Democratic Caucus, there were no proposals made along those lines. The suggestion was we've got to keep an open mind. Let's see how this process unfolds. I think that's fair. But Ali, consider this for a moment. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg's nomination came before the United States Senate in 1993, we had a requirement that it took 60 votes. 60 votes could stop any Supreme Court nominee. Well, you wonder, here's a woman who argued cases for the ACLU before the Supreme Court and so forth. She was approved by the Senate 96-3. 96-3. To think of a different time when the Supreme Court was not as political as it is now, really, it wasn't that long ago. And so when we talk about the approach of the Senate, we can help to bring this country together if our rules reflect the fact that we need more moderate people serving on the Supreme Court.
Senator, good to see you as always. Thank you for joining me. Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin of Illinois.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.